Hi everybody, it's Maddie from And Piggy Braids, and today we're going to be doing multi-strand braids. So we're going to be learning the 4-strand braid, the 5-strand braid, the 6-strand braid, and the 7-strand braid. And I know it sounds like a lot, but I promise it's really not that hard once you get the pattern down. And you could really add as many strands as you would like once you get that down. And so next week we're going to be going over ways that you can add more strands without it feeling like your fingers are going to fall off and without it being too tricky. But this week I really wanted to go over some of the most basic multi-strand braids so that you guys could get that down and hopefully create some really awesome styles. So without further ado, let's get started.
Hello, I'm Maddie's sister. I'm editing, and I just realized I accidentally filmed the braiding tutorials vertically, so I'm sorry for that. We didn't want to refilm. So that's what's happening.
So first we're going to be doing the 4-strand braid, and like with any multi-strand braids, I would recommend putting it in a ponytail until you're good at the style so that it's like contains a little bit more. It's much easier. You're going to split the hair into 4 strands, and you can hold them however you like. I like to hold 2 in each hand, and you're going to go over, under, over. You're going to do the same thing again, starting with whatever side you start on. So I started on the left, so I'm going to do it again. Over, under, over. So I'm holding 3 in this hand, 1 in this hand. This is the one that I used to weave. This is my weaving strand. So now I'm going to do it again. And this is my weaving strand. I'm going to go over, under, over. I got my weaving strand in this hand. Now I'm going to do it again. So over, under, over, over, under, and I'm using my fingers to grab it like that, and I'm holding the strand that I'm weaving through with my hands that's holding the strands that I weaved through before, if that makes any sense. And then over, so we're going to switch it. Over, use your hand to grab it. Under, over. And again, you'll be able to develop a much easier way to do it once you get used to the actual braid. So it'll become natural to you eventually. Now I'm going to finish it off by tying it with an elastic. If I can get it opened. And there's your 4 strands braid. So we're going to start the 5 strands braid by getting 5 strands, obviously. And I'm just going to hold them all like this. It's easiest for me to hold 4 in one hand, 1 in the other. It's your choice though. And we're going to go I'm starting on my right because this strand is the one that's separate from the rest, but you could start however you want. I'm going to go over and under. And then hold these 2 strands that you just wove through, and you're going to do the same on the other side. Over, under. Hold those 2 strands that you just wove through. Over, under, hold the strands that you just wove through. And you can weave all the way through with 1 strand, but that'll make a much more uneven braid. So I like to do it like I'm doing 2 separate braids, kind of. It's easier if you think about it like that. And so that strand that you weave through will be used in the other side also. So I'm going to go over, under, and then that strand that I used to weave, I'm going to use on the other side. Over, under, and that's the strand that I used to weave through the first side. So it's connecting both sides. And I'm going to continue this all the way down. And once you get past the first few strands, you could just hold the strands together in your hand. They're not going to separate because they have hair like weaving through them, so it's easier. And holding the strands can be a little bit tricky for this. My main tip would be to pinch your fingers to help you here. And you could use in between your fingers to hold strands also, like this. It's much easier if you use in between your fingers than if you were to actually hold them like this. And then for grabbing strands, pinch your fingers, much easier. Okay. So there's your 5 strands braid. And I love this one. It looks like kind of like 2 different braids that are connected. And it also kind of looks like a braid in the middle with loops on the side. It's just super intricate and super cute, and I love this, and I promise once you guys learn it, it'll be super simple. So for the 6 strands braid is when it starts to get kind of complicated. So I like to split the hair into 2 sections and visualize it as 2 separate braids. So you're going to start on this side. You're going to get 3 strands. And you're going to go over and under, just the first stitch of your normal braid. And the strand that you used to weave, I call this the weaving strand. You're going to hold it in between your fingers, and the other 2 strands you're going to hold in between another finger like this. It's it's much easier to keep all the strands intact that way. You're gonna make 3 more strands. You're gonna go over and under. So now you have your 2 weaving strands from both sides, and you're just gonna cross them. Like that. And now you're gonna do the same thing again. So over, under, in between one finger, in between the other, and now we're gonna do the same thing again. So you're gonna go over, under, and you're gonna cross. Over, under. Make sure to hold that weaving strand with another finger. It's much easier. You've got to use these pinching fingers when you're using multiple strand braids. When you're doing multiple strand braids, it makes it so much easier. Over, and I'm pulling through with my pinky. Under, and now cross the strands, your weaving strands. And you're going to keep doing this all the way down. And as long as you keep both of those weaving strands in control, you should be able to do it. Just make sure that you keep them intact. So I love the 6 strands braid. It kind of looks a little bit like the 5 strands braid, which is why I don't do it as often, except it's a lot more intricate. Like you could see that there's more loops. So I think it's really cool. So last but not least, the 7 strands braid. And this is where I reach my braiding limits for doing the braids this way, like the normal braid way. And so that's why in the next tutorial I'll show you how to do more multi-strands braids using the topsy-tail tool or using my weaving technique, which is much easier. So we're going to split the hair into 2 sections. One of them is going to be a little bit bigger than the other. And in one of them you're going to create 4 strands. And you're going to basically be doing the start of a 4 strands braid in this one.
Well, turns out I also used a really bad camera angle. Sorry.
So you're going over, under, over. You got that. So you're going to get your 3 strands that you wove through. You're going to hold them in one strand, and your weaving strands you're going to hold in between your fingers. The other side you're going to do the same thing. You're going to split it into 3 strands. So we're basically doing another 4 strands braid because we're going to be using that strand that we brought over. So we're going to be going over, under, over. So it's like the 6 strand braid except we only have 1 weaving strand instead of 2. Over, under, over. And that's why I think that braids that have an odd number of strands are much easier because you only have 1 weaving strand instead of 2. Over, under, and then you're going to go over and using that previous weaving strand. Over, under, over. So as you can tell, kind of like the 6 strand braid, I actually think it's easier than the 6 strand braid because again, only 1 weaving strand. And I'm going to continue all the way down. Tie it off, and I did a super loose one because I was trying to explain it, but it looks really cool, doesn't it? So there's a 7 strand braid. I hope you enjoyed all those braids. I hope you learned something. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next week.